We are back at the shop. This has taken quite some time. Between the weather, between working, between finding time, doing Brian's engine swap in the Cummins. You know, it's been taking a little bit of time. Today, of course, it is pretty nippy out. It's about 25. What are you gonna do, New England? Hate it. I'm gonna show you guys exactly what Brian got done, or his buddy got done. We wanted to kind of spice up the engine a little bit, make it look a little bit better. Obviously, they painted the block, which looks great. Everything else looks pretty good, a lot of new stuff. And we wanted to continue that. And since we did the second gen manifold right there, and we flipped it, everything's gonna be visible. So like, you know, you kind of want to do it once. It's kind of like that saying, buy once, cry once. So Brian went ahead, got some powder coat. His buddy powder coated the valve cover and the compressor housing on the turbo. He tried matching it to the Sinister Blue. Definitely a bit different. He thinks he's going to probably do the intake elbow, but for the time being, it's cool. It's fine. Here is the valve cover. Pretty snazzy. There was one spot that I guess the sandblaster couldn't really take care of, but I mean, half of this is covered. You're really only going to see the sides, which is whatever, but it's done. Or the metallic is a little wonky right there, but what are you gonna do? His buddy hooked him up, so what are you gonna do? You know, compressor housing looks pretty sick. It's gonna look good in the truck, and yeah, I mean, he did a great job on this thing too. So there's the Sinister part. Obviously doesn't have any metallic in it. It's more of like a deeper candy blue. This is as you can see, it's got some like silver in it, but still a sick color. Today, we're gonna go ahead, adjust the valve lash. Didn't do that last time. I'm gonna just make sure how to do it on the Cummins. Obviously, you know, dirt bikes, cars, done it before, but if there's anything in specific besides top dead center, we're gonna find out. So we're gonna go ahead, do the lash, put the covers back on it, bolt on the intake plenum, do the turbo. One thing for the turbo, forgot to mention, we did have to get a spacer. So we got a 1/2-inch spacer. It was hitting the manifold right there. You can see the paint marker. So this is going to space it out just enough to clear that, and it'll actually help the intercooler piping. So that'll be nice, getting around the alternator. Just put the top of the engine back together. Everything is in spec for valve lash, so super easy. Right next to my chick right there, we got intake at 10 thousandths and exhaust at 26 thousandths. And yeah, that's all I'm going to tell you. But I guess we could have put the intake horn on now, but we just got the valve cover snugged up. Compressor housing is just sitting there, but as you can see, no longer touching the manifold, so that's perfect. Intercooler piping is going to be super simple, and a lot of people might say it might clash with the orange, but you're really not going to see the engine block in the truck. You might see a couple glimpses of it, but I don't think it's going to be anything. Yeah, so we're going to keep on trucking, throw on the intake horn. Okay, so top of the engine's all together, as you guys saw. Brian just got the pan off. Everything looks super nice. He just cleaned off all the surfaces, so right now we're going to finish wiping it down. Do a little bead of silicone in the back, a little RTV. Slap the new gasket on with the pan, and this thing is ready to go back in next weekend. We got to get this thing in. The weather is absolutely atrocious, so the only way we can get this thing in today or another day or whenever is for this thing to be in here. All right, that's a little bit of a mission, but truck's in here. We cleaned up some of the rust and painted the frame. Get that out of the way. Yeah, the trans is definitely a little crooked, so we're gonna have to jack it up a little bit better. All right, so what happened?
It went in.
It went in. This thing was honestly kind of a bitch. For anybody doing this, what we ended up doing was taking off the motor mount, like the isolated motor mount, one that's held on by 3 bolts. So we took that out, let that sit in the frame, and then we were able to kind of shimmy the engine back. This side was fine. It kind of just dropped right in, and then we fought the trans for a little bit. Trans is kind of fun, but yeah, it didn't want to line up, but then we got it. So everything's torqued down and torque converter bolts are all done. I'm just noticing now, trans dipstick needs to go to that bell housing bolt, but we might have to reconfigure that for the downpipe. So we're gonna hold off on that, but everything important to hold this engine in is done. And I think we'll do a couple more things and probably call it for today, Sunday. So I gotta go home and eat and get ready for bed. But yeah, she went in. No casualties. Did we scratch the valve cover? Nope. So yeah, she's in there. All right, guys, we have been going kind of hard, as you can see. Let me see your hands. Not too bad.
I wear gloves.
Dirtier than Brian's. But we're just trying to get this thing to start. We just had to swap out the starter harness because it was different. I didn't swap it. Didn't really look at it too close. But we got it to crank, which is good. Had oil pressure. We didn't have lift pump, but after we swapped out the starter harness, it started working, so that's great. So now we're gonna go ahead. I did crank it without the crank sensor, but now we gotta crank it and see if we get fuel. We're probably gonna have to crack the lines or do something here. So I guess we'll start with that. Alrighty guys, so it has been quite some time. We have gotten a lot of progress done on the Cummins, Brian's Cummins. We had some hiccups, we had some issues. We couldn't get the truck to start. I'll include any videos that I did take of it trying to start. We were having an issue with what we thought was maybe an electrical issue or like a fuel delivery issue. We did put 30% exergy injectors. The injectors he got from one of my buddies. Brian's had them for like 2 years, and then they were out of the truck for like a year, maybe more. They only had like 6,000 miles on them. Like, whatever, let's put them in. And so after that, we kept diagnosing the truck, this, that, and we kind of came to the conclusion, let's go ahead, put in the injectors that came with this engine. And as soon as we did that, the truck fired up. We're gonna go ahead, send those out, get them cleaned and flow tested, and then we'll throw those back in for the hot tune whenever that comes. But as you can see, I'll flip the camera around and show you guys where we're at. Definitely chugging along. Today we buttoned up the valve cover. We redid the valve lash again just to double check it. A couple things here and there. We still have to figure out the downpipe intake. That's for a later date. Brian got the EGT probe all figured out. We got the boost gauge all figured out, the routing, the hose. But now Brian's doing a couple little things, and we're gonna go ahead, drop the cab back down, get the bolts snugged up, and then we can go ahead and start kind of doing the finishing touches. Everything's looking great, and this thing is coming along. Very exciting stuff. Sorry for no updates. We've just been busy trying to get this thing going. It's been taking up time at my shop. We've been busting our ass to get this thing done, and it's almost there.